Namaste to everyone. We live in a world where we are ready to do anything for name, fame, money, and power and attention, right? And this is the same world where we hear about the global warming and the climate crisis that's going around the world. UK was on fire last year. So was Australia. So is Nepal right now. We look at the news and the next day we just swipe and it disappears. We are back into our normal life. So this is what has been happening with me and I think almost everyone. But my understanding of the responsibility of government, the responsibility of UN, and the responsibility as an individual, it's been a learning phase for like 10 years now because like all of you youngsters, I was a party animal, though I don't look like one now. I love to party and I love to, hang around with friends and did not worry much because so I was not being victim of this crisis, right? So one of the things that I'm about to talk about is the importance of sustainable development goals. The reason why it's important is though the UN has made 17 goals, it's also our country, which is also a member state of UN, to implement it. And you all know that we have different organizations who are talking about sustainable development goals. And at the same time, you'll see that many people who are actually contributing to carbon emission are speaker at the sustainable development goals. So yes, my frustration, my activism, everything started from there. So I will tell you about my journey from how a lazy architect to an activist I have turned and how I have started thinking as a global citizen. Okay, there you can see Jumla and there you can see Ilam, east and west part of Nepal. Okay, that's where my parents came from. So I was born in Kathmandu trying to fit in with my friends and everyone. But whereas the status of, women, the status of the development in east and west of Nepal was different. When I was small, I used to look up to my grandparents who were, very renowned person in the east and western part of Nepal. And they did a lot of sustainable development projects, such as donating their own land to start the first airport in Jumla, to starting the first health hospital and first high school in Jumla. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be the person who takes the lead. But later on, I realized the person who's behind their success was my grandmothers, who woke up like 4 in the morning and slept at late at night, made sure that their political life, all this personal life was perfect. And I think it's the story of every one of us here. It's we have seen in our family like how hard our grandmothers are working or our mothers are working, but we never appreciate them. We don't even see in the pictures there, right? So this is the story of the status of women of my grandmother's generation in all over Nepal because I had the opportunity to learn much about the status of women all over Nepal. And uh, then comes my father and mother. You won't see my father's picture here because he was the housemaker, he was a government officer who was taking care of us while my mother was running all over Nepal. Okay? And she wanted to be like her father, so she did. And one thing about her is she never worked for any organization or something. She did it individually. I was the first woman to graduate class 10 from Jumla and came to city with her grandfather when he was the minister. And she went to one of the kindergarten to do, job. But her quality of education was so poor that she was not allowed to teach, but to take care of the kids with the food and cleaning up. So she was so frustrated with the discrimination that she saw and the quality of education that she got. She took one teacher from Darjeeling and went to Jumla to start the first boarding school in Jumla. So the picture that you can see in the top is the first batch of students of Jumla who are now DIG, who they are pilots, they are doctors, and whatnot, even politicians. So you can see the picture down. There's a woman behind. I took my mother like 5 years back for the anniversary, 42nd anniversary. That's when she saw her, work that she has done in the past, and that inspired me a lot. She had no one to donate from anywhere part of the world or the government, but the land, the school, everything was donated by the local people, and that's how it started, and that's what is called sustainable development for me. So besides that, it's you can see my mom has been very active, but it's been 10 years. She has been in home because she had a kidney failure while she was starting a old center, not a shelter, daycare center for old people in Jumla. She was actually there, and I used to send insulin, but there was no road access, and the flights were not flying, and she could not get the insulin on time, and her sugar was so high that she had a kidney failure. So it's been 10 years that we've been sitting together. Before that, I used to see my parents once in a blue moon. I used to sit outside my home looking at the star, the first that people used to say if you wish something, looking at the first star that you see in the evening, your wish will be granted. I used to wish that my parents and mother had time for me because they used to give me everything but never around. So that's why I was a spoiled kid, I guess. Not a spoiled kid, but a spoiled teenager. And one of the thing about my mother was in 1995 there was the biggest world women conference that took place in Beijing. My mother went there, and she came back, and I told her, what is that you learned there? Well, she told me that she didn't understand a thing because she was so poor in English. Hillary Clinton was talking about human rights, is it women rights, but my mother didn't understand a thing. But she understood one thing is that 70,000 people in a stadium in Beijing, the women that are fighting all over the world, she told me that she realized not just the women in a village are facing discrimination, it's the women around the world. And that's why she needs to continue her fight. And that's what I saw all my life, that my mother was almost everywhere, whether it was starting school in the slums of Gangabu, or whether it was starting a school in the refugee camp, not refugee camp, they were staying outside of Bhutanese refugees. The women were getting jobs there, or anywhere at all. She just used to open the school. And in the last 10 years, sitting with her, spending time with her is how I realized that I need to fulfill her wish. She told me that she wants to start more school all over Nepal, especially for the kindergarten, because we have school, but the kindergarten are missing. Kindergartens are missing, and that's when the women don't have time for themselves because they have to take care of the kids. So yes, with that, one of the school that she started in Jumla was like 25 years back. So it was closed. That's when I helped the local authorities to actually pay for the teachers and the food and for infrastructure, because it's not the responsibility of my mother or me to go and beg around and bring money and then give it to them to start. It is a responsibility of the government of Nepal. It's the responsibility of the local government to take care of the children. And I was successful, though they sometimes look at me in a very creepy, look, like I go and scream all the time. But that was successful, and I think that is why I have started other schools, encouraging the local people who are very active to start more school. So this is about my mother, and this is about me. My mother wanted me to study in a very good school. I remember like she used to take us to all the, schools where we get the good education. I graduated from St. Mary's from a convent school, thinking that I could be whoever I want to be in my life. Then I went to JV Academy where it was okay because they didn't give priority much to what I was doing or anything. Then I went to Nepal Engineering College, where there were students from all over Nepal and so many men, I was literally scared. I had to act certain way, I had to walk certain way, and if not, they used to call me Uttoli of St. Mary's. So I used to find it very strange because that's how I was in the school, either on the stage, either in the basketball court, either running around screaming, dancing on the street. That is how I was. But one of the things I learned is while fighting all that, I ended up becoming the first lady, not lady, girl, women president of the Student Council of Architecture in NIC. And I think that's how it changed everything that I need to fight. I need to take on a leadership role because I was a leader in school or in college, but that didn't matter. But going to a place where we have men and women from all over Nepal, it was different. So that's how my journey started. Once I did my bachelor's in architecture, I didn't like much, doing the table work, being the draft person, making design of this concrete building that you can see in the Kathmandu. I hated concrete building. And then I joined construction management. I thought it was more easier to go and order and then be the boss around and come back home. So while I was doing that, that's when my mother got sick. And I had to choose whether I do 10 to 5 job or I work at home or what do I do next? Because my mother was important to me. Many people tell me sometimes, like, you have visa of US, why are you staying in Nepal? And I'm like, why? I go there for shopping sometimes. I can bring you something. But I want to be in Nepal because I love my country. So, while working, I was doing a little bit of projects here and there, and I didn't like it much. But everything changed during the earthquake of 2015. I remember we going to one village one day with 100 bags of rice. Then in month we were going one village with 1,000 bags of rice and other things, and ended up even building houses for the people whose homes were displaced or destroyed. And the fun part was for me was the first time I was playing with mud and bamboos and timbers. I felt like an engineer then. Before that, I was a laptop machine. You know, so that's how I learned, and I realized that's what I want to do because it's more about the environmental impact of the profession that I do. And luckily, I had the opportunity to meet with a Mexican architect who was working in Mexico after earthquake, and Portuguese architect and Australian architect, where we went to different villages to build different houses. So that is how I started promoting, and still now, I think 3 months back, I went to one of the Earthbank building, and then my brother comes to me and tells me, "You are going to volunteer again?" And I'm like, "No, this time I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid to build a house. I'm getting paid to talk about STZ." And that's how this everything has been going on. And so you can see me in this global platform of women. I became a member in 2013 of this international organization of women. And one of the things that happened there was I was elected in 2017 to be the Young International Representative and lead in the work in the executive, international executive. Because this is one of the organizations that was started before UN did and has a consultative status with UN. So one of the things I learned was while going to different UN events through this organization that there are so many panels, so many speeches, so many events going on, but implementation is zero. Even the people who are speaking there are not implementing SDG in their basic life. And one of the learning sessions for me was meeting amazing women from around the world, whether it was first National Women Commissioner of Police or whether the women from Europe who were talking about equal pay or the first president of Pan-African Parliament and the president of Malta. It's just a few. There were many. And one of the things about them was there were no Einsteins. They were not one someone came from, Pluto or other planet. It was people like us, people like me. But the only thing that they did is they groomed, they studied, they made education and stuff, based to anything. And that's why I tell the young girls, continue your education as far as you can. And volunteer as much as you can, because that's where you learn what's happening in Nepal, what's happening in other world. Not just, but many people I meet, what they do is they know what's happening in Kathmandu, but they have no idea. There is a place in Nepal where there is no road access. There is still a young girl in Nepal who's out of school, and there is still a woman like me, single woman. I'm 40 single. I'm happy though. But like me, who doesn't have a home to stay. And though the government has said, oh, 33%, we have the equal rights, who is going to give her the land that she deserves? Because last time I did a survey of 100 women who needed a house. We want to build, and I said, okay, so how many women has land ownership? 3 women out of 100. So this is the status of women in Nepal. And talking about globally, there are like 25 or 26 women who are the head of states around the world. And UN has said we are achieving gender equality by 2030, and we have 7 years left. And according to the rate at which gender equality is working right now, it will take 130 years. But now, the main thing is that the UN has said by 2030 they want to achieve gender equality. We have to push from organization, individually, even if you are in a some organization, just run for the board. I did, you know. So these are my actions, okay? It's easy for me to relate to SDG because there I am promoting sustainable architecture, which comes out from the sustainable cities. And there I am, this, you see, Visit Nepal project that I do when I go around the world. Everybody tells me, how can I help you after I give my speech? I said, come and visit Nepal, spend your money and then share your ideas to the women and men of Nepal so we can help ourselves. So we are not dependent on anyone. And that's one project. I've been doing for almost 5 years and many people have come. And another is two schools that are already on the process of starting. So one thing is I'm very proud and I can say that I've tried my best because it's not easy talking here and then you go to a village and then you tell the local authority you need to help yourself. They will say bye-bye. They will say from which organization, how much donation you have. And if you say, okay, I just bought the ticket and came here because I have idea to share, they will just push you aside. But all you have to do is find someone who really wants to do something in their village. And if you inspire that person will fight with the local authority. And finally, I talk about women, equality, this and that. But how many organizations in Nepal has equal representation of women? I'll give you precise two examples, okay? Nepal Engineering Association, Nepal Medical Association. We have enough engineers and, doctors in Nepal. But in those executive board, there are 1, 2 women on the executive board. So this is the status of Nepal. That is what I say. Forget about what's happening in the rural part or what's happening in the parliament. But we need more women on the front. And I request every one of you men here to support your sister, to support your girlfriends also, everyone you can. Just tell her that she can do it. And it's okay to make mistakes. I made many mistakes. Sometimes I laugh at it. That's the only best thing about making mistakes. You can laugh about it. But the thing is that you learn. And volunteer as much as you can and travel Nepal as much as you can. And if you get an opportunity to travel around the world, do that. Because I thought that women of Nepal was having awful time. I have met women from Lebanon who is like very rich, but she knows that she doesn't have equal rights in her own home or in the workplace. There is a woman in Europe who is working day and night, but she's scared to get married or have babies because they don't have, parental leave. But there is in Finland. It's one of the best countries in the world. So that is how we need to learn like what's happening and what are the best things we can learn from around the world. And yes, Nepal is not just Kathmandu. Nepal is from east to west. Unless, right now we are talking about 6 lanes in Kathmandu. We are talking about flyover in, Dhapa. But there is no road in Jumla, The road just reached Jumla a few years ago. So this is not the development that we want. And everyone I can see, I've met so many young people who want to be prime minister, but the thing is that you have to take your first step. That is volunteering. Second step is being open to anything and not being focused on just one thing. And what I have done is, so far, it's not easy. It's not easy when you're going to different organizations. I'm a part of the Federation of, UNESCO clubs in Nepal. Last time, the one thing I told them is this a men organization? Where are the women? So yes, we need to raise our voice and say we need to bring more women. Yes, we need to cook as well. We need to clean, but the men has to do as well. At the same time, we need to be in the parliament. At the same time, we need to speak for the right because normally what I see is people are in the front, whether boys or girls, they are in the decision-making level, but you can't take the right side of the room. So make yourself more open because we need more leaders in Nepal. We can't let grandfathers run forever. I'm single, so I will not be grandmother, but I will be old. But I will try my best, and if you want to learn more, I'm always open. Thank you so much.